Hello and welcome everyone. Welcome to episode 99 of DevChatter. That's right. Our Monday stream in 2 days is our 100th stream on this channel. So that is absolutely crazy to think that we're about to hit 100 episodes. As I'm sure most of you can probably figure out based on the acronym SOLID, the Liskov Substitution Principle is going to be our third episode of our Solid Saturdays series. Try to say that a lot. So we are here today for our third episode of Solid Saturdays. We are going to be covering the Liskov Substitution Principle. For anyone who doesn't know, my name is Brendan, as you can probably see right below me right there. And this channel here that we're on is called DevChatter. So DevChatter, you probably have noticed I tend to say we a lot because it's not just me. We are here to have discussions and chat about code, hence the name. So all of you here in the chat room, hello, I see a whole bunch of people saying hi and hype and talking in there, so welcome everybody. It should be a good one. No ocular malice, I am not Bill, you are, but that's fine. I can understand the confusion. We are both very handsome and good at writing code, so... and quite modest as well, so, you know, among our finer qualities. I'm just kidding, everybody. So, Will, my name is Brendan. It's right here below me. It should be that label. I mean, I can't see the label because it's kind of small on the screen I see, but, you know, I'm pretty sure it's there. So I have a couple of things to mention before we get started. We're crying. Oh, man. You know, the funny thing is I actually haven't seen Sean in quite a few years, probably been like 3 or 4, because I haven't made it out to the Microsoft MVP Summit, which is usually where I see Sean. But I haven't made it out there in the past few years, so maybe next year, we'll see. Anyway, I had a couple of things that I wanted to cover before we jumped in, and I also wanted to make sure I gave people time, so I didn't cover the slides, because we're just going to do slides for the first 5-10 minutes, something like that, and then we're going to write code and talk about code the rest of the time. I don't want to bore you guys with slides, that's not why we're here. But the cool thing I wanted to mention is, hang on a second. Yes, it actually is quite a long time to have not seen another developer for a few years. Because I don't think I caught him a couple of years ago. S&B, your mug hasn't arrived yet. Yeah, so I just got my my DevChatter I'm coding mug. Yours won't be invisible. There's green on it, which is a bit of a problem. I should have switched to a blue screen today. Because I could switch that to blue, but that's a pain in the butt. And if anybody is interested in wondering what those are, we have these awesome mugs, which I will link in the chat there. But anyway, sorry about that, S&B. Should say I'm presenting slides instead. I'm not too worried about it. Slides are just because I can put information up there and it looks nice. Alternately, I could have just had some nice text up there and had it in front of Visual Studio, but it'd be fine. Anyway, it's awesome to see everybody here, and I'm going to go ahead and get started. Hopefully that's enough time for people to make their way into the room. But here we go. So, Liskov Substitution Principle, this is the third letter in SOLID, so it's the L. That's right. Liskov Substitution Principle has the weird name because it's named after a person, because it's got Liskov in the name. So Liskov is a reference to the creator of this idea, we'll say. Not that, she was probably not the first person to ever think of it, but she's the first person to really put it into words and present it to other developers. So she formalized it, and it is awesome. So Barbara Liskov, I believe is her name, back in like the 80s, realized the importance of making something fully substitutable for something else. So this is not a new idea, but it is still one that we all struggle with, because it's so easy to make something that inherits from something else or implements another type, is in some way a subtype, but is not fully substitutable for the parent type. Now let me explain what I mean here. So notice in this description, I say Liskov Substitution Principle. Subtypes must be fully substitutable for their base types. I refuse to substitute my principles for others. Nice. I like it. Okay, so here's the idea. Hang on a second. Did this not... It didn't engage developer mode. Sorry. I need to restart Discord there. It should be in streaming mode, I should say. Okay, so... There we go. I know you guys are surprised I'm referencing the software craftsmanship calendar images again. So Liskov Substitution Principle. If it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, but needs batteries, you probably have the wrong abstraction. So the idea being that if you want to have a duck, probably that little yellow one isn't what you meant when you said, hey, I need a duck. Because that guy's not really substitutable. It has some of the same properties. It's got a bill, it's got the rough shape, you can put it in water and it won't sink, but our regular duck didn't have batteries, there aren't feathers on this guy, and various other attributes about it just don't work. So that's kind of what you need to think about, like, it's almost that, but doesn't quite work. That's what we mean when we say fully substitutable. It needs to completely do it. So let's take a look at the actual thing. So we said fully substitutable for the base types, and that means for every provable feature of it, it needs to be provable on the subtype. So, when would it not be? If you've ever implemented an interface inside a Visual Studio, the first thing you'd probably notice that happens is it creates methods for all of the methods that you need for that interface. What it doesn't do is it does not actually implement them. It leaves them with throw new not implemented exception. That's not... If you leave any of those, you are not following the Liskov Substitution Principle. So let's jump over and talk about how we actually follow it. So, when you follow the Liskov Substitution Principle, the idea here is that you want to depend on simple, light abstractions instead of large, concrete ones. Now, the reason I make this suggestion for when you're applying it is that it is important to make sure that you can fully complete everything it requires. So a smaller, lighter abstraction is much easier to solve and work with than a large one, because a large one's going to require filling in a lot of fields. This was a big issue for a lot of ASP.NET developers back in the day when we would want to implement some of the interfaces that were provided to us by the web team. We would end up with a whole bunch that would require 20, 30 properties, fields, methods that get implemented, and we would end up inevitably not filling in all of them. So that would cause problems later if we ended up needing a feature that we hadn't implemented yet. And so that's the type of thing that comes up if you didn't follow Liskov Substitution. One of the other things you can do to help yourself follow Liskov Substitution is to follow the interface segregation principle. And that is next Saturday's solid principle. And we're going to talk about that one as well and show you one cool place where I had not been following the interface segregation principle in this project, and we have now made it so it does. Not fully yet, and there's a reason for that. That's because next week is Solid Saturday on interface segregation principle, so I need to make sure that I've got some stuff to cover on that one. So I have left that in a partially completed state so we can look at some interface segregation there. Okay, so we know that following that will help us, and we'll cover that next week and re-explain how that applies to Liskov substitution. The next thing, one of the ways that you can detect it, so looking up there again, if you avoid needing to check types, so if you see yourself going, if this is that, then you're probably not following Liskov substitution because you're having to check a type. So that means that you can't treat the types the same way. So that usually indicates a Liskov substitution violation. It's not guaranteed, but it's likely. And then the last thing is right here, if you go and you look at a not implemented exception, anytime you see a not implemented exception, that's a problem. So it generally means that you left out one of the features of your interface that you were supposed to include. So that's really the set we end up with here. Okay. We have a couple of examples. We're going to look at these, and then we're going to start writing some code here today. But here's what we've got. The iMessage sender is one of our interfaces inside of this project. Now remember, in C#, both interfaces and classes and structs all define types. So they create essentially a blueprint for an object. And true, yes, Will Bennett, that's correct. Yes, just because you're throwing the exception doesn't necessarily mean that you're breaking Liskov substitution. But those last things there, avoiding checking types and watching out for not implemented exceptions, you want to pay attention to those because they might indicate a Liskov substitution violation. Okay, so the iMessage sender is implemented by two things in our project, a buffered message sender and a Twitch chat client. So those are the two things that implement it. I believe it's just two. I don't think we have any fakes of it. And then the other one, and this is one that's pretty easy to look at, and I want to look at it because of what's in those parentheses down there. We created an iClock interface, and we use that because some of our code is time dependent. And so in order to make sure that we can control the amount of time that has passed, we inject an iClock, and that could either be the system clock, which is going to again reference the system on my computer, or we can use a fake clock where we set the value. And interestingly, the fake clock has a slight violation of the Liskov substitution principle that I'm going to explain when we look at it in the code here in a second. And we're going to fix it. So, well, we might fix it. It depends on whether or not I want to go down that rabbit hole or not. But we should probably fix it. Although it matters less because it's a fake, so it's not as important, but if we did that kind of a violation somewhere else in our code, we should fix it. And we'll talk about it. Okay, so that is the end of slides, and I apologize, we're about to get colors there. There we go. So, welcome everybody. We're back at Visual Studio. We're done with slides. If you have any questions and want me to show those again, I can. But my plan for now is to be out of slides and on to code writing. So, let me go ahead and get a couple of things up here. So we are going to get that up there so we have access to GitHub if we need it. We have this here. I didn't actually change that file. Let's discard that. And, oh, for anyone who doesn't know, first off, welcome everybody, if you're just showing up. We have all of our code is actually stored out on GitHub, so you can go take a look at that. That is at github.com/devchatter, so that's everything we do from our bot project to our game tracker, so to the individual bits of code that we write. It all gets pushed up to github.com/devchatter. You can check any of that out. Send us issues, pull requests for anything that you're interested in doing, so feel free to take a look at that. And if you want to chat with any of us after the stream, take a look at our Discord. That is a great place to find us. It's linked there in the chat. Okay, so let's take a look at some of this code. Could be a monotonic or a broken clock that is only right twice a day. Yes, actually, JJ, technically our fake clock is a broken clock that's only right sometimes. So that's actually how it violates the Liskov substitution principle. Or only right once a day if it's a 24-hour clock. Okay, looking forward to this to see some real-world examples instead of some obviously constructed examples. Yes, exactly, Renee. That's what I like about our Solid Saturdays is I do have to have some contrived examples that we've created, but for a good number of the things, we can look at our own code base and see where we are following and not following these principles. Okay, so let's take a look. So, these are the things I mentioned. I mentioned that we had a buffered message sender right here, and it has a couple of things about it. Wow, Greendolf. Yeah, that would not be better. I hadn't thought about that. Okay, so here's what we've got. We have the Twitch chat client and the buffered message sender are both implementing the iMessage sender interface. It's this one right here. And in this interface, what we get is two methods. We have send message that takes in a string and a message, and then we have send direct message, and it takes in a username and a message. And that's all this thing does. So what we do here is anyone that's calling this wants to do two things. They just want to know that that they can give a message to it to be sent somewhere, and that message is going to be displayed somewhere. So that's what they want. There's no determination of that's an immediate, like that it's, instantly there, because we know there's some delay on the internet as well, even. And then send direct message is similar also, in that, again, you just need to send its properties and it wants that message to get delivered to its destination. It doesn't care about the specifics, so anybody that uses these just wants them to go out. The buffered message sender, I would argue, maybe has a slight violation of the Liskov Substitution Principle, but it's questionable, and whether or not it's understood by the caller is really, I would say, the important factor here. Because there's another similar restriction that we may at some point add to our Twitch chat client, although I'll explain why we might not need to. Okay, so when you call the buffered message sender, it works a little bit differently. The Twitch one, as you can expect, it calls through the Twitch API and sends that data out to Twitch. I'm not going to cover that one because it's less important and harder to see what's going on, because it calls through to that. This one works a little differently. This one follows what's called the decorator pattern, which is a design pattern where this object, we say, decorates another one because it fully encapsulates it. So in this case, a buffered message sender requires another type of message sender in order to function, because it does not actually do the job. But because it requires another one in order to work, actually that's weird that I take in an iChat client, but I think I know why I did that. Don't worry about that. What we do is, if you're calling a direct message, we just directly call the internal one. So our direct messages, we are not buffering, we're just immediately sending them. So this behavior is going to be exactly the same. Why is it going to be the same? Because underneath the hood, it's just going to call the Twitch chat client and not care. So as long as our chat client, our internal one, works the way that as long as it's following Liskov Substitution Principle, the buffered message sender's following it here also. And so that's the idea. As long as one is following it, the other's following it. And since the other one is only one, they're going to work the same regardless of which we use. Okay. Looking at send message, it works a little bit differently. In this one, we queue up our messages because we don't want them to just all suddenly go out all at once. We want them to buffer. So we want to say, oh hey, have I just sent one? Okay, in that case, go ahead and add it to the list and we'll just send them out as a group. And so that's how the buffered message sender works. It just buffers them up and sends them out when they need to go. And that works fairly nicely, but someone might say, hey, hang on a second, that's not quite following the Liskov Substitution Principle. And I would agree, it is not quite. And here's why. When they send that message, they expect it to go out. However, if I tried to send 10 messages, each 1 second after the previous, what would happen is the buffering system would make it so the 9th message would go out 8 minutes later. And I'm not expecting my message to be delayed by 8 minutes. That is potentially a violation of the Liskov Substitution Principle. And so that's why it's a little weird. Now, we make a judgment call here on this one because anywhere we are using the buffered message sender, because of the way this one happens to work, we want that buffering to take place. So the idea is in our code, we have to have the understanding that our messages are not always going to send that way. And so that's why for this code base, I would not consider it a violation of Liskov substitution. It has to do with the fact that within the code base, we understand how a message is being sent. We understand that they're sometimes delayed because this is not the only delay that occurs. Yeah, so I noticed in chat one person says it's not a violation, the other one says it is, and that's why I point out we're in a little bit of a gray area here. And so that's why this is an interesting discussion point, is because by the full, literal, like very strict definition of Liskov substitution, we are violating it. However, if we add some humanity here, any of our developers know that these types of delays can occur. And so because of that, it's not a violation in this way, really. We're not worried about this violation, I should say. Because in addition to this buffer that we apply, there's actually another delay that you guys don't realize. So inside of the chat client that is used here, we are actually restricted by Twitch in how many messages we can send over a given time period. You are, I am, we all are, because they don't want, bot networks taking over Twitch. And so the way they restrict it is they restrict the number of messages that we can send. In this case, what ends up happening is the messages are essentially throttled back by the TwitchLib library. So if you take a look at TwitchLib client, it has a built-in mechanism that I can't remember if we've got enabled or not, that will make sure that you do not exceed that limit. So you don't get your bot shut, blocked by them. So it will limit how many messages you can send so you don't exceed it. Let me catch up on chats. Depends on if there's an explicit contract that says messages go directly. Yes, exactly, Bennett. And that's why I said it depends on the understanding of the developers calling it. If you have a storage interface and one goes to the console and one goes to the DB, you have the same buffering that's beyond your control. Exactly, Will. So sometimes if say, storage, so my persistence, goes out over an API, that's going to take longer than storing to a database versus storing in memory. So there's all kinds of places where we can store things, and they have different amounts of time they'll take. And that is exactly true. You need to understand how your system works. And as long as you do, it really isn't a violation for your system. So that is actually very, very well explained. I love it, Will. There is a way to ask for more rate limit. Yes, Janisku, you can get your rate limit increased by requesting to be acknowledged as a bot, and it will usually allow you more as long as you're a known bot. I think they probably track your content, would be my guess, just to make sure that you're not, spamming stuff. Though console isn't really storage, swap that with file. Yeah, well, we get it. The OS scheduler is buffering instructions, it's just fast. Yes, exactly. Yes, so we have buffering in a lot of places. It just happens that this buffered message sender, because its buffer is so large, it's a minute at a time, that's why I would say that this one comes with a bit of a difference. So if you were not expecting a minute-long delay to be possible, then this one would surprise a developer, and that would be a problem. So that's all we're worried about with that one. Okay, so we kind of get that, and we understand. Hopefully you guys all understand why that one is substitutable for the other, because realistically you could use either one and you'll get the same result. It will not be a difference as far as the caller is concerned. Either one will work fine, and that's important. In this case, the fake clock, which we used for testing, merely because this is such a simple object, it's easier to use this than it is to use a mock. So if you've seen in unit testing, we often use a mocking framework. We use MOQ here on our project. And what that does is it creates mock objects are kind of like fake objects that are created at runtime in order to unit test your code. So, we're expecting, this object over here, so we're like, oh, let's make a fake, give it to you. And so then we lock in this fake object and just go use it. And the mock, we're able to manipulate when the test is running and say, hey, you know what, when they call this on that, go ahead and give them this result, and things like that. So it lets us manipulate the object. We get a little bit less control here in our fake, because it is just a class. So any extra stuff we want to do, we have to build ourselves. We can't just rely on the existing mocking framework. So who out there can tell me, why is my fake clock violating the Liskov Substitution Principle? Anybody know? So my system clock, just to show you, does this. It is just a straight pass-through for calling date time UTC now and date time now. So when someone asks for a clock, they want UTC now and now. On my fake clock, there's one problem with it. So when you create it, we just set the time. No takers? Okay, so the reason it's wrong, and the reason this is a violation of the Liskov Substitution Principle, is that if I were using a system clock, I would be able to do for example, a thread.sleep and wait for these time to change. I can't do that. In order to change this time, I have to set it with something else. So if I wanted to actually make the fake clock be really following the Liskov Substitution Principle, which I don't want to, just for the record, but if I really had a second one that I wanted to be able to set for some reason during the code, maybe we wanted live testing of our code, so we're like, oh, let's give a malleable clock or something like that, a mutable clock, right? So maybe instead of calling it fake clock, we called it, mutable clock, and we would allow admins to be able to run the system as if it were a little different, and so, we would let them change this value while the system is running, maybe. That's just like a thought of like when you might do this. What we would want to do instead is this. We would want to use a backing field for UTC now. So let me see if I can convert this to property with backing field. There we go. And do the same thing on this one. Why is that? Okay, there we go. So that makes them properties with backing fields. However, I don't want them to have these initial values. If we're following Liskov substitution, then I want to say get that or this. And do something, whoops, these need to be nullable date times if I'm going to do that. So let me explain what I sort of did here. So, welcome C# Fritz and friends. Hopefully you are having a fantastic Saturday and are ready for some more C# and .NET coding. We are doing some discussion of the Liskov Substitution Principle here on our 99th episode of DevChatter. So this is actually our third episode of what we're calling Solid Saturdays. So welcome everybody. Go ahead and spam some more of those DevChatter hype emotes in chat. There, anybody who's got them. I know we've got a few subscribers here in the channel that can spam those. Welcome all these C# Fritz and friends here. I was just talking about the Liskov Substitution Principle and explaining if we wanted to create a fake object, say, that was following the Liskov Substitution Principle, as our system clock, for example, over here, is a direct wrapper around the clock, and this allows us to extract this dependency. We also have a fake clock that we use for testing. And this testing class does not allow us to follow the Liskov Substitution Principle. So I was discussing how we could make it so. And welcome, thanks for those follows, greatly appreciate it. Hopefully we will see you all back here on our next episode too. All those that are clicking the follow button, of course. And anybody else who hasn't yet. So here's the idea. With this code, we want to make it so that if you are in a regular scenario, you don't notice a change, and this works as you expect. But we give the ability to manipulate it. And this, while it's still kinda weird, will make us closer to following the Liskov Substitution Principle. And yes, it depends on the explicit contract that we make with other developers. So if in our iClock interface, everywhere that we called it, we explained, so if we did a summary and explained how it worked and actually told the developers that called this, hey, these are the rules for calling this and how it's going to work, we could say that it's not a violation. But that's why I'm pointing these out, is because... And welcome, everybody. It doesn't really matter. Doesn't this interface allow an implementation of a backwards clock or a stationary clock? Will Bennett, yeah, so the clock could have any time at all. But I think probably the understanding most people would have of the clock is that it would be a clock that is in some way based on some time. Maybe it's got a different time zone. And that's kind of the idea with the iClock interface here. But yes, you're absolutely right. It all comes down to the agreement that we have between the developers. So, I am going to revert this back because I do not want this change. We want our old one back. So let's go ahead and clicky these buttons and discard those changes. Okay, so I wanted to talk about those and show you guys a couple of examples where we are doing this in our code. So those are the spots where we are maybe sort of violating the Liskov Substitution Principle. A lot of places where we are following it absolutely and it is working correctly. Falsehoods about time. Yeah, exactly. As the interface does not have setters even when documented, I'd consider it a violation. So no, actually, Renee, in Liskov Substitution, you can have more things than that. And that is actually the reason we depend on interfaces. Here's the idea. So the interface is what we're depending on in this instance. The iClock interface does not have a getter or setter. So we can have them if we want. On our fake clock, we can add additional behavior to the subtype. It's the parent type that can't have behavior that the subtype is missing. So we need to make sure that our child classes are fully substitutable for the parent. The reverse does not have to be true. So the parent does not have to have all of the features that the child has. And that's the key. That's why we depend on interfaces. This abstraction, this simple interface that we are defining here, we are able to completely substitute for that interface. This class, this fake clock, would not be a replacement for the system clock, as written. It absolutely would not. Exactly, equation child. It does not limit behavior, it only dictates the minimum required behavior. Precisely. And it's an exact set of behavior. Okay. The RX library has the same concept, a test scheduler that allows you to simulate time so you can test async and time-dependent queries in constant time. Will Bennett, that's awesome. I'm glad someone did a library specifically for handling that kind of scenario, because it is an important one that a lot of people miss, and actually applies a lot to our code here because we are doing time-based responses to things in our bot. Okay, so some other examples. We use a base command, and the base command has a bunch of stuff because most of the commands that our bot uses are ones that work pretty much the same way. There's only slight differences. So, for example, we have a coins command that will tell you how many tokens you have earned for the DevChatter arcade here. And that just uses a command, but there are some things about it, like I could say em2 triple, for example, and check your coins, and that's how many you've got so far. And a lot of our commands have this idea of parameterization and using properties for various things. So we have a command, wait, what? Did I kill the bot? Maybe I killed the bot. I don't know, we'll see in a second. When there's behavior common to all implementations of the interface, when would you want to use an abstract class versus an interface? Oh, yes, that is a fantastic question, and Equation Child is correct. When there is behavior that is common among all of the implementations of an interface, you're better off using an abstract class than an interface. However, you may sometimes find that there are sets of them that follow the other one. So, for example, we actually do have an ibot command interface that is different. And there are actually only 2 implementations of this interface. The ibot command only has 2 direct implementations, and that is actually the base command, which all of our other commands are using, except for one type. And those are the simple commands. And simple commands are all stored in the database. So some of them have code backing them and have customizations. The other one just come out of the database. And that's the difference. And so because the simple commands work differently from all the others, there is a separate class for them that don't, and these do not come from that base abstract class. So that's the idea here. You prefer to have an interface and a base abstract class anyway to explicitly define... Yes! See, Equation Child? You would probably like this setup then. That's exactly what we did here. We have the interface and the base abstract class because it allows you both pieces. You can define a very clean interface for your command, for your interface, and then you can also have the other part, the brain shared behavior between the implementations. So it works out nicely. So that's the idea. And when you look through this, you'll notice I don't throw exceptions in here. There's no, there isn't any throw new not implemented exceptions. So we are fully following that interface, and that's how we know that everywhere in our code you can use either a simple command or a base command, and it works the same. Once the system's running, we just create the object differently, and then once you're using the interface, that's it. You can't tell the difference. So our code just looks for these. Hey, Boo314, welcome, and welcome everybody that's here today. As I said, this is our 3rd episode of our Solid Saturday series, so each and every Saturday, for a little while here, we are doing a solid principle on each one of these days. So today we're talking about the Liskov Substitution Principle, although we are going to write some code. And my plan when we do these streams, because we've actually done 2 already, obviously, we did single responsibility and open close principle, and on these days what we do is we... Hey, Deadly Onion! Hey, thank you for the Twitch Prime subscription. Much appreciated. So, I'm really glad you're enjoying the stream. The idea with these streams is we talk about the principle at the beginning. So in the beginning, I actually started us off with some slides, and we discussed the Liskov Substitution Principle and what it is and everything like that. And then when we got to the... we then look at the code, we look at some examples of where we're following this principle in our code base, and then we go and write code talking about the principle as we go. So with solid and open close, we just wrote more code and talked about these principles while we wrote it. So that's the main idea. Andy, hey, welcome. Good to see you there. Fuel stable. Abstract classes can carry state. C# might possibly add default methods to interface, which means interfaces can have common behavior. Yes. So one of the big things that might be coming in C# 8, it's one of the huge discussion points, is the idea of default implementations in an interface. It's kind of scary because in C#, because of the fact that there were not default implementations of interfaces, we have been very broad with how interfaces work. We allow you to implement as many interfaces as you want inside of C#. So a lot of classes have more than one. An example of this is, where's a good example of that in my code base? Technically that one should be, but isn't yet. Well, either way, the point is, you can implement as many... Oh, I know exactly where. I can see So this class actually implements 4 interfaces. Now, that's actually because one of these interfaces I'm phasing out, and it should only be implementing 3 of these interfaces, but we haven't fully completed that change. The point is that because you can implement multiple interfaces, that means you can run into multiple inheritance problems. So that's actually one of the concerns that people have. I don't know how well the safety bits are going to work, but the C# team knows about that concern and is trying to alleviate it, but we'll see what we end up with. So, okay, let me check out chat, see if I missed anything. It goes well with Deadly Onion goes well with DevChatter. Thank you, S&B. Love it. Do you have your video saved anywhere? Yes, Itgaran, Itgaran, however that name's pronounced. And if I'm butchering it, please tell me how to say it correctly, and I will. There are a couple of places where you can find videos of this. There's a video section above me here. Should be right up here, videos, and you will see on that tab videos right there, including a section called Solid Principles, and then also we have all the videos down here. So if you want to see all of our episodes, they're all recorded here, and if you like YouTube better, I keep it on a 2-week delay because I want most of the views to come here on Twitch because I like it, but we do actually have a YouTube channel as well if you want to subscribe and check out our videos there. The YouTube one actually goes back to the beginning of the stream, so you can see all of our episodes going back to February. So as I mentioned, this is our 99th episode. So on Monday, when we stream again, that will be episode 100 of DevChatter. I have not figured out if we're doing anything special for that yet. Maybe I'll start early, maybe we'll make it a long episode. Don't know, but we'll have fun with it. So, because 100 episodes, it's crazy. Okay, what do I think about the nullable reference types? I think it's a fantastic change. I love the idea of nullable reference types because it's going to give us a lot of power. For multiple interfaces, just do explicit implementations. IEnumerable that, IEnumerable T. Oh yeah, Will Bennett, that is a way around some of that. YouTube. A couple of follows bring balloons. Yeah, we'll see, Will Bennett. Anyway, one other thing I wanted to mention, for anyone that is wondering, I did get my my DevChatter mug in finally, so it looks like our little derpy emote, in case you couldn't guess. The problem is it's green, and I'm on a green screen, so it's getting cleared out, which is kind of derp, but I'm excited about it, because I'd been waiting a while. The mugs don't ship quickly, but when they get here, they're pretty nice. Delicious. Okay, automated message system, no. We just set up our voting system. So I want to talk a little bit about this, and I want to write a little bit of code about it. So hang on, we merged that in. Yes, transparent mugs. Not all DevChatter mugs cause invisibility. Requires green screen. Okay. Here's what I want to do. I want to say voting system. What's next? Overlays. Let's call it JavaScript overlays. Hang on, it's cloak technology. Yeah, exactly, Equation Child. What are some other good suggestions? Text adventure game. And I have one more thing I need to put in here. Bot commands, voting game, refactoring, programming exercises. So I have a question for all of you here in the chat. And it doesn't work because what? Oh, sorry. I don't know how my own voting system works apparently, because I'm dumb sometimes. There we go. I forgot. It's actually the new operation on the voting command that starts it, so I had to say vote new. So I set up a vote there in the chat. So go ahead and do vote and then the number for what option you want us to work on today. Because I am planning on still discussing the Liskov Substitution Principle, because literally it is that applicable in that many places that there is no way that we don't run into it wherever we write code. Number 6, without tests on DevChatter. Wait, what? Refactoring? Oh, yeah, we could do some refactoring stuff there. S&B, what's the problem? I don't actually know what the issue is, S&B. Look at the vote. Did I mess it up? Bot commands, JavaScript overlays, text adventure. Whoops. Text adventure game. I forgot to wrap in quotes. Whoops. Well then, we'll just see if anybody votes for 3, 4, and 5 at all. We haven't gotten any votes for it yet. Huh. Text sounds so good. Yeah. I guess we'll have to look at that. Maybe we'll do that as part of something else. So, that might be enough voting there. So, we'll do vote Finn. Okay, so JavaScript overlays wins. Alright, so, sounds like we're doing JavaScript anyway. I thought refactoring might have gotten it. I saw a couple of refactoring votes in there also. Okay, so the fun thing with refactoring is we could have fixed that bug. If anybody wants to be awesome, you could report a bug on whatever that was in my voting thing. But if you don't get to it, I'll get to it anyway. Alright, so people want to do JavaScript overlays. Sync stuff. We will absolutely be doing more refactoring on this stream. We have done a lot of coding on this stream of a lot of different types. That's part of the reason why I wanted to add a voting system, is because I wanted to let all of you start to make some more of those types of suggestions, which, by the way, if you want to be more involved in this project and any of the other stuff we do here, more involved in the stream and able to chat with more developers, I do recommend checking out our Discord that I just linked in chat, because there really are a lot of developers talking about coding stuff over there. So, languages, other things like that. Okay, let me take a quick look on GitHub before we do our overlay and just make sure that I didn't leave something lying around that is related to the overlay that we need to work on. Okay, so there's that, there's that, there's that. Those are all fine, and then that can be ignored. Okay, we're good. All of those are related to our text adventure game. So we have a few branches that are open related to that. One of them is the main one for the adventure game, because we don't want to merge that until it's done. And then the other ones are changes to that, so improvements to it. So let's make ourselves a new branch, and we're going to call this branch overlay. What do we want to build in the overlay? There's a number of things. We could start putting the voting system on here. Voting overlay. Let's start taking a look at it. Why not? And I think Janiscu might have been talking about doing something like this. Because it was yeah, sure. There's actually a command, so any of you can actually ask the bot at any point for links to these things. So if you need the Discord link or the GitHub link or the YouTube link, those commands are exactly what you would expect. Okay. Yeah, no. We'll go ahead and do this. I will talk about that later. Alright, so we're going to work on our voting overlay. So what am I talking about when I say voting overlay? Right now, when you guys voted, you were just voting in chat. And that's cool, right? You guys were able to vote, we were able to pick a winner, and that worked out the way we all expected it would, and that was fine. But we might want to do something a little bit different. So, let's take a look at our bot hub. So for anyone who doesn't know, we are using a technology called SignalR, and I actually have to turn my overlay on. So prepare to see some awesomeness, everybody. Because I've kept this overlay off recently. No, not that one. Where's the... Oh, it's, sorry, right here. That, okay, overlay is on. And refresh. There we go. Alright, here goes. Hype! So, this right here is our hype command. It gets a little crazy, but all we have to do is call hype, and it does that, bit of madness there on the stream. Now, how we created that is actually kind of cool. It is actually activated through SignalR, so I can actually send it again, and there is a direct line of communication between a web page, and that web page is actually here on the stream. This whole space, everything up here, that's all a web page covering the whole thing. It's a 1920 by 1080 web page. There's a canvas stretched over that whole space, and so we can draw whatever we want there. So there's an HTML5 canvas, and we use SignalR to talk with it. So the same way that yes, Equation Child. It works the same way that, say, a Stream Elements overlay or a Streamlabs overlay works. So if you had any alerts set up like that using OBS, ours works the same way. I don't know how their JavaScript works for communicating the message. That may be SignalR, but it might not be. I don't actually know. I haven't looked at their code. But what we are using is SignalR, and if you don't know what that is persistent communication between our client and our server. So the server here is this code running in Visual Studio. This is a website. So this web project is the server, and the page that's communicating with it is in here. And I have it actually as an ASP.NET Core page, but it doesn't really need to be. It could just be a static HTML page because the code's written by JavaScript anyway. It's this overlay.cshtml file right here that is the one that is stretched over the space. So, and yes, I did just hard code this because I was literally going to do nothing else with CSS other than just stretch this thing. So I'm like, just put it on there. I'm not worried about it. I'm literally stretching the canvas over the surface of the screen. There's nothing reusable about this. So, I shove it in the top corner, and I stretch it to the size of the screen, and I set 1 to relative and 1 to absolute. Oh, I set this to relative, and I set my canvases absolutely positioned. Whoops. Top left corner, so up there-ish. That's hard to point at. That way. That way. There we go. I got it. It's very difficult, by the way. I'm mirrored and pointing and stuff, so if you notice, I tend to look at stuff. I just know to look that way to look at the screen. Anyway, so we have canvases stretched over there, and we do some fancy stuff with them. When I send that command, here's what happens. So the hype command is called, and the hype command does two things. You'll notice it messaged in chat down there, and it says hype hype DevChatter. And that's this message right here. The other thing that it does when it calls this command is it calls the overlay notification.hype. And that is this right here. I created an interface called overlay notification. And the reason I created this is that one using statement you'll notice that is not up here. I have my namespaces, and I have system. You won't see any using statement here for anything web-related. You don't see ASP.NET, you don't see SignalR, you don't see anything like that. So I've managed to make it so that my hype command does not know about SignalR, which is a great thing. I've managed to keep this keep that dependency out of my class, so it's very, very nice. So here's what we're going to look at. The overlay notification. And this is a wrapper around what we call our bot hub overlay. It's our bot hub overlay notification. And bot hub right now is the only SignalR hub that we've got. So the way that SignalR works is kind of interesting. Essentially what you define on the server is called a hub. And a hub is a point that a client can connect to. So if we look at the code in the overlay, so overlay JS right here, what it does is it will make a hub connection. So we create a new SignalR hub connection builder with URL bot hub, and that basically says, hey, connect onto this URL. Now this URL was defined right in here. So inside of our startup class, we told ASP.NET, hey, I'm gonna use SignalR, and when I use it, I want my bot hub to be at the /hub URL. So essentially, any clients just need to connect to this route on my web page, and they will connect to this hub. So anybody that wants to access bot hub information, be able to send messages to the hub and receive them back, just has to connect here. And so that's like the communication endpoint. That's like the address of this connection point. And so I could have multiple clients connect to it, but in this case, it's just my one overlay here. Now, obviously, if we were to deploy this bot somewhere, make it available to a lot of people, we could allow them to connect to these hubs, and you could have multiple clients connected to it. And that would be fine. S&B, yes, there are some updates to SignalR, but we have not updated to them yet. So, but yes, we will, and SignalR Core, which is the one we're using, by the way, is the newest version of SignalR, and is lightweight and designed to work with .NET Core, and there are updates coming to the JavaScript client as well as the other clients, and it's getting a lot of changes. So we're going to update and we're going to use them, but we have not yet. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close that. This is our bot hub right now. It has a handful of commands on it. So these are the, I called it commands, but these are the messages that we currently send to the client, we'll say. And the client is what's over my screen here. That's the JavaScript code. Hype being the first one. You guys have all seen that. The other one, we have our Hangman game that also plays out on the screen. And it's just a standard Hangman game. You know, guess the letters and try to win before you get, you know, hanged. So it's kind of morbid, but it's a fun game, and we all know how it works. So we have that built in. But we want to build something else. So for this, the voting system itself is already written in the bot. We just want the screen to be used as a display of what's going on. So we just need to send the state. So here's what I want to do. I want to make, and maybe this lives somewhere else eventually, but for now, I'm going to give this bot hub a few extra pieces. So we're going to do public void. Deadly Onion. Oh, I'm sorry you have to go, but thank you for stopping by. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. And remember, these are recorded, so if anyone does have to leave, you can check the video to catch that. But I'm sure you know, it's more fun to be here live. So I will see you all on Monday. And if you want to check our schedule before you go, just type in !schedule and put in wherever you live, whether it's country, city, state, whatever you want to do, and it will tell you when our schedule is, so you can make sure you catch the next stream. And anybody else that's in here, feel free to try the schedule command, so you can find out when our streams are. It will convert to your time zone automatically. Oh, good try, EM2 triple. M2 triple? EM2 triple? Wondering how that, what that is. Sorry, Will Bennett. Maybe you should add, like, you know, something else on there? I don't know. Okay, so, vote, start. I think that's a good first one. So we'll say we have a vote start and then a vote end as well. Vote end. Clients all vote start. And the reason why it's red right now is that my iOverlay display interface does not have a vote start method. That's why it's complaining here. clients all, and this is vote end. Sorry, someone said something in chat. Glad you like it, Deadly Onion. Long story on the name. Oh, okay, don't worry about it. Tell us over in Discord then, M2 Triple. If we display voting options, is the data source for that the chat output? If it reads chat, it will read the chat which has incorrectly parsed options because of that bug. So we'll see incorrect options. Yes. So Equation Child, right now, we will need to fix that bug too. So we're going to take a look at both because this is going to require that that bug get fixed. But if I use single word options, it would not be a problem. For example, if I did vote start and I said odd numbers, even numbers, you can all vote for either odd numbers or even numbers, and the set is right. We just need to figure out that bug for how we created it. So clearly, SNB likes even numbers, and just to be different, I will vote for odd numbers. And if I'd been doing that correctly, I would have actually flipped the ordering so that you'd have to vote for an even number to get odd numbers and an odd number to get even numbers, but meh. And I love how people immediately tried other things. Yeah, you have to vote by number, Will Bennett. I didn't let you choose words and things like that, but yes, there's no write-ins on this vote. But yes, prime numbers, I can understand. If I'd put those in as an option, developers probably would have picked those. So last time, you guys may have noticed that I said vote fin to end the voting, but I could also do vote end, and it works just fine. Even numbers win. Yes, you could do write-ins. It would be really funny if we allowed that. Hey, Netcore, I love the name. Sorry, I ended the vote before you could get in there. Alright, so what I mentioned to all of you is the reason why these are red right now is actually because iOverlay Display doesn't have them. So, let's jump over here. This needs to have two more things, and it's going to be vote start and vote end. And these being on the interface, you'll notice suddenly makes these not red. So the idea here, this is a strange concept, is my hub implements hub, but it doesn't just implement, you know, any hub. It implements a hub that is aware of the iOverlay Display interface. And so the idea is that means that all the clients effectively are having to implement this interface is sort of the concept here. So it's like my clients use this interface, the iOverlay Display. So that's this. Don't you have a refactor for that? Will Bennett, oh yes, no, yeah. Yeah, so Will Bennett is wondering, why didn't I, oops, hang on, let me go to the overlay display. I will remove these two just to show you. Will Bennett is wondering, why didn't you just click on this and go, you know, keyboard shortcut, create method, and it would do that automatically, adding these in, right? Except that by doing it that way, it's, you know, less of an explanation to prove to you guys, hey, that's all that's required. So I kind of wanted to explain how it worked. But yes, now that I've shown that, for the rest of the stream, if I add any more of them, I will just be using a keyboard shortcut to create them. I just wanted to make sure that I explained to everybody what was going on, so it wasn't, you know, weird. When I do too many keyboard shortcuts, it all seems like magic to everyone. Okay, so we've got that working. That's our hub setup. We have those. Let's see, what can we do? I want to start off by just sending these messages and letting that sort of happen. Okay, right, I made this wrapper so we could do this. So let's add these to the wrapper for now. And we may split this later. So this is start vote and end vote. Start vote and end vote. So start vote, end vote. There we go. Start, vote, and end vote. I think that's what I needed. No? Okay. Oh, it was vote start and vote end. Whoops. Derp, 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 derp. Vote start. Vote end. Derp. Hang on, let me fix those names then. There we go, there we go. Okay. Vote start, vote end. Good, okay. That implementation is there. Alright, let me take a look on chat. What does the hub look like? Oh, Yakko, that's the hub. And oh, yes, hub this, that's from SignalR. So we could take a look at that, but we don't really need to. That's just part of the SignalR library. It's not there. It's not required for us to actually use it. Isn't it confusing to have vote start and then start vote? Yes, that's why I just fixed that. I didn't mean to do it that way. That was my bad. Feeling like missing a piece in the middle. Yakko, maybe. I'm going to keep implementing this, but if there's still something that's confusing after we get this in here, let me know. So here's the interesting thing. You all may have noticed that I created... let me take a look. What implements this iOverlay notification? Just this one. So BotHub overlay notification needs to be fully substitutable for that interface. That means I need to have all the pieces here. The problem this creates is this class has gotten a little bit large, so I actually probably want to shrink it down, but I'm not going to do that right now because I want to get this overlay created because that's actually what you guys all voted for seeing. So this gets called by the hype command, so let's jump over to the hype command and take a look at how this got in here. So we just pass that in and then that should work. Okay. So vote command is going to get, in addition to the voting system it has, an iOverlay notification system. Now keep in mind, notification overlay system brought in this bot core systems streaming. So so this is going to know about the fact that we're on a stream, but it's not going to know that we're using SignalR for that notification. So it could be implemented however we like. Next thing, I want to initialize that field from the constructor. So we're going to pass that in as a constructor parameter and assign it here. And then that will give us access at runtime to our overlay notification system. So what that means is we can say this. Actually, I think I'm going to pass these down to there. So the starting and ending of a vote, I actually have as part of the start and end vote operation. And essentially all I did was I just broke that logic into another class. There's not really a big reason that I need that because these concepts aren't huge. The classes weren't going to be all that large to begin with, but it gets us a couple of nice things. Okay, so once we have this in here, I can introduce a read-only iOverlay notification field. Yes, it is actually the command design pattern, that is correct, which, for anyone who doesn't know, is a specific version. It's very closely related to the strategy pattern as well. The difference being that in a strategy pattern, you don't always have the requirement of confirming whether or not it can run things like this. There's a slight difference, but they're basically the same. Command pattern's like a subset of strategy pattern, because this is the strategy pattern as well. Okay, so return voting system, start vote. Vote, start. Actually, do I want to do that, or do I just want to... No, you know what? I'm not doing this. No, we're not doing it. We're going another way. We're doing this another way, guys. We're doing this another way. I'm doing it nicer. We're doing it nicer. Get rid of this. Nope, not doing it. Not doing it. Nope. Goodbye. Goodbye, thing. Wonk. Alright, there we go. Cleared up. Get rid of this. Every once in a while, you'll start writing code and you'll realize, oh, wait a minute, there's a better way to do exactly what I'm doing here. So we're going to get rid of that. Start vote operation. Can get rid of this. We no longer need that. So I'm going to clean up those. That can go away. We are going to put it on the voting system. I was writing that and I realized, wait, this is in the wrong place. So if you ever realize, no matter how long, that you're going down the wrong path, just adjust. We all do it. Okay, so what I know here, does this have a constructor? It does not. Interesting. Wow, I didn't need a constructor for this? That's impressive. Okay. We're going to add a constructor to the voting system. And it is going to take in an iOverlay notification. Overlay notification. We're going to create a read-only overlay notification, and then we're going to go down here to start vote. It's options string, which is based on choices. So that's perfect. That's what we want. So we are going to say notification of the start, and we're going to pass in choices.value underscore choices values, I think. So when we start a vote, we need to tell it all the votes that are in all the choices. What values is a dictionary? What? I didn't know that. That's funny. We're gonna do this then. Okay. And welcome everybody. Thank you for the follows today. Always appreciated. Looking forward to seeing all of you back in future streams. So we are going to add that list of data there into vote start. So we're going to pass in all the choices that we created. So now that we have that on there, when I go to build, we're going to run into a problem because the implementations of this aren't accepting that string just yet. Select. Whoop, no, this is choices. Choices. So this apparently does not implement the interface, so we are going to implement, which means we get this one with IEnumerable of choices. And we're going to call that method as part of that. This needs to be async so that we can await that task. There we go. Don't we need a name or caption or description or something for the vote? Will Bennett, I actually didn't cover that yet, but yes, I've thought about it, because right now we're just saying here are the options, but we aren't describing them. So, by the very nature of it, I could say, like, which of these options do you like the least? And all of a sudden there's no way for you guys to know whether or not you're supposed to be voting for the ones you like or the ones you don't. But yes, Will, there should be that. And we thought about that yesterday when we were building the voting... But yesterday? No, Thursday. When we built that little voting command. But when we wrote it, we were just thinking, like, yeah, let's just write it. We'll figure it out later. Okay, so next thing I need to do is pass down choices to vote start. And when I do that, we're going to add a new IEnumerable to that as well. And this couldn't figure out what to do. Create parameter choices in vote start. Yeah, that looks good. IEnumerable of string choices. Now that may not be able to be an IEnumerable. I might have to change this to a list or an array or an iList or something like that, but we'll see. If I can get away with it being an IEnumerable, I will. Okay. So now we're passing in choices. So let's see. Vote end. Let's head back to the voting system because I want to get vote end in there as well. So let's go ahead and say overlay notification dot vote end. And the reason why is I want to make sure that we can actually shut this down so that we can get a reset. So now, once we have this in place, we can work just in the JavaScript. Even though we're not done, I want to display the choices. Okay, let's go ahead and confirm, whoops. In the bot hub, we have vote end, we have choices, we pass them into there. Those go into there. That means this must have choices as an option. Okay, looks good. Let's jump over to overlay.js right now. So we are listening for all those various commands that we can get, and we just make connections to them. I'm probably going to break out specifically the connection stuff into its own module here in the JavaScript. But I haven't done that yet because overlay right now was all I did for this. So we did overlay and then we broke out the individual pieces like how the sprites work for the hype animation, as well as separate code in a JavaScript file for how the Hangman game is played. And if you take a look at that, you'll see that we just have a separate file for the sprites that we use for hype and the Hangman and overlay, and then there's the site.js that's not the one we're using for this stuff. Okay. So let's make another couple of connections for this. Now, keep in mind that I could do a single connection that came with a payload of data. So there's a couple of ways I could do that. I'm making additional connections, but likely what I should be doing is a connection per game type. But this is the structure I did for now, and I haven't changed it yet. But that's probably going to be the first major change that we do to this communication when I revisit this, which I am going to be revisiting this when I adjust our Hangman game, which I'm planning on doing soon. I just need to get the time to do it. So this is vote start and vote end. And instead of calling the Hangman game, these are going to be blank for now. We are going to do something else. So I need a voting file. So let's go ahead and steal that. So we're going to copy the Hangman game. Voting.js. There we go. So voting equals that. Come down here and let's start building this. We don't need those. Ooh, is running. We might want that. We'll see how that works. We're not going to do that for now. I definitely don't need to draw a head. We're not going to have images for the voting, I don't think. Which means that we won't need draw image, which I think is one of these helpers. Display victory is not a thing. Display game over is not a thing. I do not need to draw gallows as part of this. And it's going to be vote start, vote start, vote end, vote end. There we go. Hey Draco, welcome. Hey, day's been going pretty well. Today is Solid Saturday. So that means that we're covering one of the solid principles of object-oriented design. So this is technically the Liskov Substitution Day. And although we do just write code on our Solid Saturdays after we discuss a solid principle of object-oriented design, we try to focus and make sure that we think about and talk about that principle still. So thank you for the reminder. Okay, so we're going to return back that object. We don't need a start game method. We need a vote start function, and we set is running to true, and it's going to need a couple of other things to do. Display the options somewhere. I don't know where. We'll figure that out. So that's what we need to do there. Wrong answer is not a concept for this. Vote end we'll need, so we'll change this to vote end. It's going to set is running to false. It's going to clear our rectangle. And get rid of that. We don't need to draw these lines, I don't think. Sync stuff. Can you recommend a good book for learning programming in C# or programming concepts? Yes, Sync stuff. You can find some books down below that would explain some things. So if you take a look down in the stream, I have a recommended books section right down below me here on Twitch. It's down right here in our recommended reading. C# in depth. I think the 4th edition may have come out, so I need to update that link, but you should be able to find it there. And Agile Principles, Patterns, and Practices in C# will show you some good stuff on C#. And as Will Bennett's mentioning, Al-Bahari's C# in a nutshell is also a good one. And S&B also mentioned Head First. Their stuff's really good. You'll notice I have Head First design patterns right here. Head First books are fantastic. And other places that you can learn C# stuff. We have our learn... And my bot's not running. Why isn't my bot running? I must have made enough changes to kill it. Anyway, we will just link it here. Past events. We did a Learn to Code in C# series here on the stream. And if you go here, you can take a look at that stuff there. So there's also our Learn to Code series, and you can follow along with that. Okay, S&B, thank you for the heads up. I wasn't sure when that book was coming out. Is he actually waiting for C# 8 to be out before he releases C# in depth 4th edition? Yes, so Rising Phoenix. That's part of the funny thing, is the in-depth book is not necessarily more content about C#, but it's looking at C# at a lower level. And so that's one of the big things. So the In a Nutshell book in this case, even though it's called that, is really, like, that's the poor name on it. Because it's not really in a nutshell, it's like a high-level look at all of C#. It's just funny. Because along those same lines, Rising, is there's, what's it called? There's a good one. It's, JavaScript, book and JavaScript. I don't remember the other one. The good parts. It was a great, I really shouldn't be, here it is. JavaScript the Definitive Guide and JavaScript the Good Parts. I just love this image because it's just so funny. It's like, oh yeah, this is all of JavaScript, and this book just did the good parts. It's like the best visual of that. Yeah, so it's funny. We laugh about it. So I like JavaScript. It's a good language. There's some weird stuff about it, but it is really funny when you think about it, because it's like, no, there really is some just totally nutso stuff that's in JavaScript that no one should be doing. You got to be careful with how you use it. It's a dangerous language, and I will point out I use JavaScript, but I am by no means a JavaScript expert. I just use it. Okay, so what I want to do here is I want to make a method. So when we start it up, I want to call a display option. Display choices? Display choices. I said options, but I like choices better. So we're going to call that. Oops, let me steal that code. That's what we're going to call that method. So we're just going to steal that. instead of this, it's going to take in choices. And we'll figure that out in a moment. To do, display these. Alright, there we go. Okay, so now you all are probably wondering a couple of things about how this stream is going, like how I'm going to do this testing here, but we're going to make a quick adjustment. I am not going to display this stuff on my screen anymore, so I am going to hide that away. So, sorry everybody, this is our last hype emote. Oh, it's not even running, so yeah, right, I forgot, the bot, I let the bot die. But just in case, I'm going to turn off the overlay, so no more hype emotes over the screen for now. Because we're specifically developing the overlay, and it's a pain in the rear to have it displaying in both spots because I can't see which one is in the screen, which one's over there. It gets weird. So we're going to bring this up, and I'm going to visit the overlay page. So now that we're on the overlay page, I can do stuff like this. Hype. And you'll notice it's limited to that little window down there. It's not running up here on everything. It's limited to this little box. So that's where those appear now. So I can do that again, and that works just fine. Next thing I want to do is this. I am going to bring up the dev tools because I want to do one extra thing. Debugger. Choices. Wait, unexpected debugger statement? I'm confused. Anyway, overlay.js, vote start. We are going to call voting.start. I don't think I've fully passed this parameter through, so we're going to have to get that in a second also. We're going to say vote end. This one doesn't have any choices. For this, choices needs to exist, so we need to pass it there. So that should be the parameter coming down. That should actually be the objects. They should get in there. We'll see how it goes. Let me check out the chat. JS is on the way out. Long live WebAssembly. Yeah, Will Bennett. Nice. SVI, thanks for the service end. Web standards the way it did. Wait, hang on, I missed some stuff in chat. Like C++. Thing with JS is given how it started out, it's so ubiquitous to the web. Yes. So for anyone who doesn't know, JavaScript was written in a very short period of time and basically just tossed in there because the web was static a long time ago, and you know, at Mozilla, they're like, oh, we want to have a language in our browser, like, so that we can, you know, make a couple of things appear, disappear, basic stuff. So JavaScript was created. Let's see, and I keep wondering exactly lately in what redesign of the web to match where it's headed, what it look like. Yeah, so one of the big things is that JavaScript is massively used for a language that was created in a short time. So it has evolved, so JavaScript's a lot better than it was back in the 90s, but it was created very, very quickly. Oh, yes. Okay, so there have also been a lot of ways that we've added dynamic content to the web. JavaScript's not the only way. There's ActiveX stuff, there's Flash, some people probably use Silverlight, and there were a lot of ways to make things dynamic on the web. JavaScript's the only one that has really been as pervasive and everywhere, and so that's why we all know it and use it. Okay, so I added that debugger there. I'm not sure why it's complaining about that, but I must have missed something. Maybe it doesn't like it because it's like, why would you put a debugger in an empty method? I don't know. Draco, yeah, so a bunch of people, there are a lot of people that use Node now. And we will see what happens with all of the WebAssembly changes, because now that you can write code for a browser that's not, how to put this? Hey! I don't have the music playing. I apologize. But Rising Phoenix, thank you for the subscription. Much appreciated. Please make sure you enjoy the hype emotes that we have here in the chat, and your egg that you now have as well. You had to mention Flash. I was going to say Flash was the one that got you to unsub? It wasn't Silverlight, it was Flash, yeah. The WebAssembly, Silverlight 2.0. No, not exactly. It's different than that. So... Alright, so let's test things out again. Hang on, let me trigger the hype emote. Okay, so hype works. Let's try this. Vote new. Foo, bar, fizz, buzz, baz. Let's see if everything blows up. Crash. Nice. I'm not surprised by this. We just kind of shoved this. Voting is... Oh! Son of a... Derp! Alright, guys. If there is anybody that has the derp emote in chat, feel free to spam the derp emote right now, because I just derped this one. And that is, I've got voting is the module that I'm working in. Guess what I didn't do? I didn't include voting anywhere. How do we... Oh, right. That's how we did this one. We just kind of shoved it in here. Derp. There we go. Not ideal, but it works. We're not using any libraries that actually... we're not using any require or anything like that. We're too simple right now, and I don't want to... What I try to avoid early on and when you're in a simple state in a project is I try to avoid making the decision of locking myself into something. So I like to use a simple structure that's effective but does not tie us into a specific tool. Oh, yeah. Draco, Google is your friend there. Feel free to take a look at that, and I apologize. We do block links here. I really need to get around to increasing our whitelist of links to allow a lot of different things. But I have not gotten to that yet. Okay. We don't need that, we just need voting, and now that I've done that... Actually, wait, I just realized, I think, because of how that works, I think I can just reload this page. I don't need to do anything special, so... Hype. So hype command works. It lets you do type check.js, catches a lot of things. Vote fin. Vote new fizz buzz baz. Already vote end. Rip. Vote 1. Vote end. Wow. Okay, so I have some kind of bug. There needs to be a vote before we can end the vote. That's funny. Vote create fizz buzz baz. Alright, so that should have come here, caught us on the debugger. It did, and look at those choices, fizz, buzz, and baz. I don't know if you guys can see that the text is kind of small, but that highlighted section right there does have our choices at runtime in the JavaScript. So that means we were able to send a message from the Twitch chat, so from my computer, out to Twitch chat, back down to my computer, so that it got into the bot, into the website, and then from that website, running in C# down to this JavaScript, and all of that just to get those 3 bits of text. So, awesome. There we go. Already. Okay. Already. I missed an L, apparently. Yep. Derp. Fixed. So, we'll just include that in the fix there. Alright, so, what we want to do is, we now want to have some kind of active vote something or other. So we need to fill a rectangle when we start. That's going to be the easiest way to do it. So display choices. We need context. Oh, I didn't pass context to it. That's my bad. That's my bad. Context and choices. And then this is going to be context and choices. Context and choices. And then here we are going to say fill rect and it's going to be from 0, 0 to, let's take up, for now, like 200 by 200. So we're going to make a 200 by 200 rectangle. This is going to need to be based on the size of the elements, things like that. We'll calculate to do it in the long run, but that ought to be good enough. Context, what do we want to do? It's like set fill color? I don't remember what it is. Hang on, so, whoops. If anybody remembers in there, HTML, canvas, fill rectangle. Fill style, thank you, that's what it was. Yeah, see? So I was like... Why don't I have... yeah, so... Oh, because I didn't pass in that. That's funny. Yeah, I already noticed that. So... ctx dot fill style. Thank you. Why didn't that, where's my IntelliSense? Derp. What do I want? I want, roughly speaking that, we'll say. Blue? No! We don't say blue here. There's blue rectangles. What is this? That's just absurd. Be such a vibrant color. Crazy talk. Overlay. Cerulean. Yeah, there we go. Way better. That was the problem. Clearly, we just didn't have a descriptive enough word. Okay. We need. For now, I'm gonna borrow this. We're gonna borrow the hangman context, and I'll fix it so it's not using that one later. Oh, whoops! Actually, it's the first parameter. Hangman context, hangman context. Don't worry about the fact that we're borrowing your stuff, hangman. Fill style. Ah! All right. So should just be able to reset this. Okay, good. The changes are there. Vote end. Ooh, Fizz wins. Okay. Vote. New. Foo bar. You didn't make my rectangle. Where's my rectangle? Fill style. I guess it doesn't like that. Apparently I used fill style wrong. Oh, I was supposed to set it like that. Derp. See, that's what I get for not actually just going and finding what it was. Yeah. Vote end. What did I do last time? Vote, create, fizz, buzz. There we go. There's our rectangle, and we are blocked on the time when we want to display it. So that's perfect. It put the rectangle up in the corner and is displayed. So nice. And we'll bet it votes for fizz. Way better than buzz. We don't like numbers that are divisible by 5 around here. We like numbers that are divisible by 3. Yeah. Thanks. I'm apparently blind, Rising Phoenix. That's what I get for not looking at the code that people tell me. Let's see. So we have our choices. So now we can just write them in there. And didn't I? Hang on a second. Didn't I? Yeah, see, I could have just looked at this. This has it all. Fill style, stroke style, see? What was I thinking? Alright, so let's do this. So choices, we pass in the context, and we're going to say context font, that this is going to be huge if we do that. So why don't we do like 30 pixels, that. And for now, we'll just... Okay, so let's do a for loop for I equals that choices. I can get away with that, right? I think I can get away with that. Okay, good. It was still red on me there. We'll find out what happens when I break this. And game over. We don't want to say game over. We want to say choices I, and what are these dimensions? That is the x followed by the y. The x can be at 10 all the time, but the y should be at 10 plus 40 times I think. Alright, hang on. There we go. That's way better. We won't mess with your PTSD there. We fixed it. It's no longer all C's. Okay. Yes, I know I don't need them because multiplication happens before addition, but it makes it clear to the other developers. Let me see. FizzBuzz always makes me think of Bucks Fizz. We should implement a Bucks Fizz coding test. No problem, Rising Phoenix. Have a good lurk there. What was I? Hang on. Vote 1. I just want to make sure that we can end this vote. Okay. Is this gonna work? I think this might work. We'll see if I mess something up. As I've told you guys a million times, when you stream, don't need to change the font in the loop. Oh, you're right. I just need to set it once out here. Also, do I need to set the color on this, don't I? We just need to write the text in there, and... Yeah, sorry, Retro Bear. We'll do this. Let's watch again. Vote, new... Vote new, foo, bar. Hey, we are doing some coding here on the stream, so live coding. C# JavaScript is our usual thing. I know the title probably says C#, but I'm doing JavaScript. Fill style for the font color since you are doing fill text. And ran without blowing up. So I probably have the text display there, and we're not actually saying anything about it. So I want to do this, and I want to make this be that, and we'll try it again. We'll see what happens. So let's do vote. Oh, someone voted. There we go. Foo wins. Vote new. Oh, someone asked a question in here. What is this? Yeah, so I said we're doing some live coding in C#. Right now this is JavaScript. We did a bit of C# that is communicating with this JavaScript. That's a lot of what we do here on the stream is live coding. And it's quite fun. We like to do things that interact with the audience. Martin does stuff. I am doing well, thank you. I hope you're doing well also. Alright, so vote. Wait, what did Retro Bear say? Sing and dance routine. Thanks, Retro Bear. Much appreciated. Yeah, we're not doing the sing and dance routine today either. Fizz Buzz. I think I got this set up. Oh, yes! They displayed, but they're not right yet. Oh, derp! I almost forgot. Okay, so here's the deal. Why did this fizz show up above the screen? And the reason why is the point you define when writing text. So this fill text, we're defining the lower line that the text writes on. And so because we said this is a 30 pixel font, because we started it at 10 pixels below the top, it actually exceeded by 20 pixels. So what we need to do is we need to bring this down to display it a little lower. So this needs to be like 40 plus that, or something like that. And that'll bring it down so it shows up in the right spot. And thank you for that follow, by the way. If anyone else is in here and hasn't clicked the follow button yet, you really should, because that is a great way to catch our streams in the future, and I would think a lot of people have fun with them. Oh, Will Bennett, I probably could text align top left, maybe. That might adjust how it works, but I think this change will work also. We'll see. So hang on, let me do this. Vote 1, vote end. Okay, so it does clear. Good. So let's refresh this again. So our JavaScript's refreshed. It should have those changes we just made. So I'm going to set up the voting again. Vote create. What do we want to do? C#, Java, JavaScript, C++, Python. The important voting here, everybody. C#, Java, JavaScript, C++, Python. There we go. Okay, so clearly we're getting the data. That's really the big test that we wanted to do here. We wanted to make sure that this was actually working and that we really do get that data. So that looks like it works. I kind of want to make this semi-transparent, some kind of thing like that. But now that we can get these to display, we now know we could draw an individual rectangle for each one that has a length size based on the vote that we're doing. So we can actually create our voting piece from this. We're getting our data. It really is working. So tabs. Thanks, Retro Bear. Yeah. What are our options? Vote 1. Clearly I'm voting for C#. I know all of you are surprised by this, you know, my being a C# streamer and all that. And yes, I really am a C# streamer. I might program in some other languages sometimes, but our primary thing here is C#. Okay, so that is running. We need to figure out what we want to do if we're already running and it comes in again. Do we reset things? I don't know. Oh yeah, this is our DevChatter coffee mug here. You could drink coffee, you could drink tea. I'm actually drinking Pepsi Max out of it, but that's because I'm a weirdo. I thought about drinking tea on the stream, but I figured that'd be too much of a change because I normally drink Pepsi Max here on the stream. No, I don't have a sponsor from Pepsi, but I would love one. If someone wants to reach out to Pepsi, we could make that happen. If anyone is interested, we do actually have those mugs at our merch store. They are available for anybody that wants one. Since the stream was talking about Liskov earlier, what about IEnumerable? Is always preferable to use IEnumerable over, say, arrays, lists as return value or input arguments? That is a great question. Is it always preferable to use IEnumerable? So when I return values from something, I actually try to return concrete types rather than returning abstractions. At least if the concrete type is one like a list or something like that, where most people aren't worried about taking a dependency on the system collections generic list. And the reason why I suggest returning those is it already is an IEnumerable. So if my caller wants to treat it as an IEnumerable, they can. So they can make it an IEnumerable type and use it that way if they want. But I have given them more power because I've told them explicitly, here's what it really is. So they don't need to try to cast it to a list. They don't need to check that it is a list. They know what properties I've given them. Now, if I don't think I'm always going to be using a list, what I do is I return the biggest abstraction that I'm fairly certain I won't change from. So I might return an iList. And let me give you an example of that. So I might return, well, this is not a great example because this thing isn't going to have methods like that, but here's what I mean. I might return an iList of string. Whoops. iList of string is what I might return from my, you know, getNames method or something like that. And so the idea is I might return that back, and the advantage is that I could return back a list of string, or I could return back a string array as well, right? And either one of these works, okay, because they both are lists. So that's kind of the idea here, is use the one that you can. You're breaking solid code to abstractions. Yeah, so here's the idea, Will. You want to depend on abstractions, so that means the caller might depend on iList as the one that they want, but I don't have to return that. So I am depending. So you depend on them. You said list, but you actually do iList. Yeah. So Will Bennett, what I recommend is the biggest abstraction closest to your thing, but you could return back a list for this also, and that wouldn't be bad. If you return back an actual list, that's not really that big of a problem here. So, Pimplack, hey, no problem. But thank you for the 2 biddies there, much appreciated. Just tossing your 2 cents in, huh? Let's see. I was taught accept parameters as wide as possible, return as specific as possible. Yes, Renee, that is exactly what I teach here. So, if all I need is an IEnumerable of string, right? I expect someone to give me an IEnumerable of string, because that's all I needed. But I want to give back as specific as possible. There are some exceptions to this. If I think there's a chance I might change from a list or to an array or something like that, I will return back an iList. And so that's the idea, is I want to give them the freedom, because the caller of this method, even if I return back a list, for example, let me change this back to a new list, right? So we'll make that new list of string that we return. If they don't want that one, they could say iList of string and say names equals getNames. Right? So they can call it like this. Now this passed in a list, but this easily could have been almost anything. Instead of a list, it could have been, it doesn't matter, because I only needed that. It could have been a new array of string, right? So this would also be valid. So I gave them the freedom to send me whatever they like, and then they can use whatever they want in the return. So that could be an IEnumerable, that could be an iList, that could be an iCollection. So if they have some reason that they only want to depend on the abstraction, they can. And I give them the freedom to use whatever one they want. And so that's the idea there. So I'm just going to undo that because I don't really want to make changes to this class. But I figured, yeah, I'd explain that concept, because we are talking about Liskov substitution today. So if anybody does have any questions about anything we're ever talking about, feel free to shout them out, and I will try to answer them as I can. And if you think I'm not doing something right, feel free to call me on it. I am, as able to be wrong as anybody else. What happens when I call .add on the list when I return an array? Exactly. You're not convinced. Sorry, Will Bennett. You are correct in the strictest sense of it. I find that funny though, because you were the one before arguing for oh yeah, in the strictest sense, that's yeah. The point is, there's no one style of doing things, Will. So if you want to return back the abstraction every time, you are welcome to, and there's not actually much cost to it. So. It really comes down to development style at that point. Okay, anyway, jumping back to this code, we want to make this work a little bit better. So, where did I do this? So we made this rectangle, and we chose its size based on this. So, I want to display this rectangle a little bit better. So... here's what I'm going to do. This is not the ideal way of drawing this, but I'm going to make it not quite so bad. So we're going to do choices.length. Which one of these? So that should be width, and this is height. So instead of being 200 tall, it's going to be... what? So we're doing... These are 40s. So whatever the length is times 40, plus how much buffer do we need? $20 plus that, maybe? 20 plus that. So we'll put this into a variable so it's a little clearer. We'll call that height. So var, aver height equals that. So we'll do the calculation there and try this. Let's see if that makes it a little bit better. Vote 1, and I'll catch up on chat in a second, everybody. So vote and C# wins, woohoo! Vote create foo bar. There we go, foo and bar. Okay, so that actually looks buffered well. Let's try it with some more options as well. I need to get rid of that debugger. Why is that debugger still in there? Derp. Vote 1. Vote end. Pimplek, MVA courses. I don't think I know what you're talking about, but it might just be that my brain isn't clicking on what that acronym is right now. The problem is that IEnumerable isn't perfect because it doesn't tell if the underlying collection is lazy or not. Yes, exactly. So one of the challenges with IEnumerable, and one of the reasons it's dangerous, is you don't want to enumerate the collection twice if there's work that went into it. Whereas if it's concrete, you want to use it. And that's why I recommend using an iCollection or an iList. So if it is a collection of data, and it is not one that's easily adding and subtracting from, use an iCollection. If it is easy to add and remove from it, then use iList, which is going to work a lot like the C# list. What if it opens up a file to generate the IEnumerable sequence? Yeah, that'd be nasty. Then the file is locked and under iteration when the collection is lazy. If it is not lazy, it is locked when the calling method that generates the collection. So I think that'd be a dangerous thing to write. So I'd recommend against structuring it that way. But if you need to, you can. This leaks lifetime of underlying resources, which usually ends up with debugging some code. Yeah, exactly. I would recommend against doing it that way. Kodabotov, I could use live reload, yes. Oh, Microsoft Virtual Academy, sorry, yeah, MVA. You are wondering if I would recommend any of their courses. There are not any specific Microsoft Virtual Academy courses that I recommend, Pimplek, but I'm betting they're pretty, I'm betting there are some pretty good ones. Yeah, so as Will's mentioning, so Will just doesn't want you using list and array, and I put list and array in a couple of special categories, because I kind of see a list and an array as an abstraction of sorts. It's not an abstraction to the point of an interface where there isn't actually one, but I think the concept of that is, I think it's ubiquitous enough within .NET Framework and .NET Core that you can get away with list and array. I think there's a special status for them. Rising Phoenix, I believe subs can post links. But if Nightbot yells at you, then I will make sure it doesn't, is the short answer. So, yes. Oh, and actually links to docs.microsoft.com are allowed anyway. So, our question has not been answered yet. I don't... Yeah, so that's part of the problem, is we do have to deal with other people's code that works that way. I think arrays are like ints for collections. You don't need abstractions for them. I would like a read-only array, though. So there's read-only list, but I don't know that there's read-only array. If there is, then somehow I've missed it in my time using C#. Framework design guidelines way... Oh! That's kind of cool. Oh, do not use them in public APIs. There you go. Do not use weakly typed collections in public APIs. Do not use hash table or dictionary in public APIs. So, they just don't want them in a public API. And they don't like collection. List is probably the one they do recommend, isn't it? And probably even read-only list, isn't it? Collection properties, return values. So, collection of T... use a custom collection by implementing iNumer collection or iList. Use a read-only collection. Yep. So, there you go. They have some nice guidelines about it, which it's nice that they do that kind of thing. And yes, I agree, abstractions for the win. That's the whole point of Liskov substitution and all these other solid principles we're talking about. They did just introduce span and memory. Yes, exactly. Those are fantastic abstractions that I'm a big fan of, Will. One of the things that we're planning on doing on the stream here, if I haven't mentioned to you guys, we have an ambitious, fun project that we want to do at some point. And I will show it to you over here. Out on our GitHub in our stream info section, we have a set of issues that are the stream ideas that we want to do. There's other suggestions for the stream that people put in here as well. But one of the things we want to do, we want to implement our own version of string split that gives us back read-only spans of the data. So we were thinking this would be a fun thing to write because it'd be a pretty neat, low-level, and useful method to write. So one of these days, we're going to get around to that one. I've been thinking about how it would be implemented, and it seems fun. iList doesn't show whether something's read-only, whereas collections do. Oh, yeah, see? There you go. I think the D specifically says code to abstractions. Yeah, so that's the idea. Dependency inversion does recommend that we code based on abstractions. The question really is whether we make exceptions for some things for practical reasons like list and such. And yes, next week on Saturday we will be discussing the interface segregation principle, and for those of you that don't know, interface segregation is something that we have a nice violation of in the project here, but we've also got some work to unviolate that. So that's one of the ones that's most easily violated, because it is pretty simple to just grow beyond it. So the same reason that the single responsibility principle is easy to violate, so is interface segregation, and I'm betting a lot of us have violations of that principle in our code and can improve them. Aren't they adding changes to the base class library to have span T variants? Yes, Will Bennett, I believe they are, and I actually was looking at some of that, and I think they may have started even using span in the low-level code of the string split already. I think they're just not exposing it yet. So we'll see on that one. But whether they make it or not, our thing here on the channel is not to go rewrite our own versions of framework. We're not worried about rewriting wheels. We're here for understanding. Even if someone already wrote the code, we can write it again, not because we want to use it, but because we want to see how it works. So it should be good. And yes, span gives us a lot of performance improvements without having to drastically change the way we code. We can still keep things readable, understandable, and maintainable, and that's why spans are so nice. Okay. Yes, I also like to read the intermediate language code that is created when you compile C#. I'm another one of those weird people that likes to look at that. Okay, so I was going to test this. Vote. And did anyone vote? Oh, there's no voting. Okay, cool. So in that case, let me just refresh this page and vote. New equation child. It's not quite bytecode. Intermediate language is the name for it. It's the same basic concept, though. Java has bytecode. C# calls theirs intermediate language, or IL for short. And it's the same basic concept. It's... wait, someone said x86? Oh, you look at the JITted code. Oh, man, you're crazy. Yes, never mind. You mean the x86. Yes. Yes, the x64 code. So the actual assembly, that's nuts. I don't look at that. You win, sir. You win. I misread what you said. So fizz and buzz. Okay, so vote 1. Whoops, what the? Vote 1. You taught me how to type. Vote Within. Vote new 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 13. How did that turn out? Oh, that's not bad. That's not bad. Our estimate was reasonable. We now just need to adjust length based on which one has the longest text, but we can figure that out later. Okay, so we're inside a branch, so I'm going to get this committed. Basic display of options. Choices? Choices. Set up basic display of choices, and then I'm going to commit that and push the change out. There we go. Vote 7. Yeah, so that's part of the reason we need these, is we want to be able to display the choice numbers also. Now, on this, I may need a more complex data structure. Right now, we're just passing down the string, but I may need to pass down the vote number so we can help to display that, which will help some people. You can use context measure text. Oh, interesting. That is a great thing. So you're saying that I can do context ctx dot measure text, and I pass in the text. In order to do that, we have to have the fonts already set, though, right? Okay. Var text length equals. So now, I'm not going to grab that value just yet. We'll figure that out in a moment, but we're going to make our longest one. Oh, what's a good long word? The longest choice in here. And that'll be text length. So we'll say text length plus, I don't know, what, 20? So we'll say text length plus 20, and then here's what we're going to do. Vote end, vote 1, vote end, refresh this, and we will do vote new 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the longest choice in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, the longest choice in here, and it did not make my... Huh. Okay, anyway, a couple of things I do want to mention while we're doing this. If anyone's in here that hasn't hit that follow button, do so if you enjoy the stream at all. Oh, it returns a text metric, which is not an actual value, so... Width. Thank you. I didn't actually look at what the result was that returned from that, so now we have width. Anyway, what was I going to say? So, if you haven't clicked the follow button, you should if you want to catch our future streams. That's the best way to do that. And I also recommend, if anyone's in here that wants to keep chatting with our other developers, because there are actually a bunch of us in the Discord, and there really are chats about that, so that is a place to do it. Will you be adding the DevChatter bot to Discord as a project for the channel? Draco, yes, we will be connecting this bot to our Discord chat as well. We haven't done it yet, but that is part of our long-term plan. For anyone who doesn't know, we actually do have a branch related to that that already exists. And we need to work with it. One of our viewers here sent us a pull request starting a Discord implementation of our bot, and we do need to add that. This is a Jackal. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying the stream. So we look forward to seeing you at the next one too. Let's see if we can't make this work though. So we have this saved. Let's go ahead and try the overlay one more time. So let me end this. So vote end. There we go. So let me refresh. Vote, create, and what do we want to create? We need 1, 2, 3, and the longest choice in here. And boom, look at that. 1, 2, 3, and the longest choice in here, and then that fits nicely. So awesome. We now measure based on that. So that was a fantastic suggestion. Thank you for letting me know about that. That was a very, very useful feature. Alright, let's commit that as well. Rectangle. Nope, let's not. Oh, wait, hang on. Whoops, didn't mean to get rid of that. Okay, so to do, find the longest of the measure text result from the choices. So we'll do that. The Discord. You can actually just use the Discord command to find it. It's right there. Yep. Hey, Renee. Yep. See, Renee's got you covered. There we go. I think you need to use the width property from the return text metrics. Isn't that what I did right here? I used the width property of the return text method, so it worked. But the idea is I just need to grab that property off of each one. So essentially, I'm going to set that up. I'm going to use the JavaScript equivalent of link extension method, we'll say, to essentially just map this onto those properties and grab the longest one. So shouldn't be too difficult to do. We will do that. My variable name confused you. Text length.width. Yeah, I should call it text metric length, but we're going to replace that code anyway, so I'm not too worried about it. Either way, a couple of things I do want to mention. If anyone is interested in getting an I'm coding mug, see, one of these ones with this little derpy dinosaur here on it, they will not be invisible. Mine only looks that way because I'm chroma keying out a green screen behind me. But if you do want to get one of those, we have a merch link there. I just got mine. It's pretty nice. I like it. And a couple of other things I want to mention. If you want to catch our streams, make sure you click the follow button to get those. The other thing I want to mention is that we have our schedule of stuff that we're doing out here. So today is Saturday, September 1st. Listed right here. Liskov Substitution Principle Solid Saturday. And then we have a few other things going on this coming week. We have a guest on Thursday. I will be pairing with Kevin Griffin, who is going to be here. You've probably seen him in chat sometimes. And he is going to be here to pair program with us. Next Solid Saturday, so this next Saturday, is going to be our interface segregation principle discussion. And this, actually, I should modify this right now. Monday, September 3rd, is going to be Stream 100 celebration. Because this is our 99th stream here on DevChatter. So stream number 100 is going to be on Monday. So Monday, September 3rd at 2 p.m. we will see you all here. It is going to be fun. Yes, Pepsi Max. Or as they're calling it now, Pepsi Zero Sugar with Max Taste. I don't know why they changed the branding on that, but that's what it is. So, nope, not Irish coffee. Although, if I were drinking something that was not Pepsi Max here on the stream, it would be oolong tea. As that is my tea of choice. I love it. It is delicious. If you missed some other things... Hey! Rising Phoenix, yeah, Pepsi Max for the win! I actually drink other drinks too. I generally buy what's on sale, but if all things being equal, I choose Pepsi Max. So if you missed some of our previous streams, check out the videos section here on Twitch, because we have some awesome videos that you can take a look at. 2 days ago on Thursday, we actually had a person that does like recruiting dev kind of stuff, talk to us about a lot of cool things. So if you want to check out that stream, we had Cassandra Ferris on here, and she talked to us about career growth, recruiting, interviewing, stuff like that. Had a lot of good advice. We had a little bit of internet problems, but hey, if you're watching a recording, you can just jump to the point where we get her back on stream. The nice thing about that is you can watch at ×2 speed if you like. And that is actually available here on Twitch. If you want to catch some of our older videos going back to the beginning of time, we have a YouTube channel that I just linked in the chat there, so you could subscribe to that as well. Notice Twitch doesn't keep all of our videos here, so we only have recordings going back to, what, like, there's like July 5th? I don't know why this May 12th thing is listed here, but July 5th seems to be how far back they're going right now. Our YouTube videos, I have them at a slight delay so that most of the watching takes place here on Twitch, but you can find them on YouTube as well, a lot of them, and I put them out on a fairly regular cadence there as well. Other things to mention, if you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at Brendonius, and if you want to follow just the DevChatter channel on Twitter, it's over there. I linked it in chat. It's DevChatter with an underscore on the end. Someone sniped our DevChatter name out from under me. We've got the domain name, but we don't have the Twitter, so bummer. If you want to contribute to our projects, you can find them out on GitHub, github.com/devchatter, and other things I want to mention. If you want to support this channel, the best ways to do it are to, well, obviously number one is to show up here and watch the stream, but the other things that we appreciate are retweeting our stuff, telling people about DevChatter, talking in the chat, participating, send us pull requests. You can subscribe to the channel, which gets you access to our Twitch emotes that you can use everywhere on Twitch. And it unlocks some other things as well. I am experimenting with something new that we're going to be doing. If you are interested, you can be a Patreon. You can be a patron of us on Patreon. I linked that there as well. So patreon.com/devchatter. If you become a Patreon at a certain level, I'm going to start letting people actually be in Visual Studio using VS Live Share if we can get a nice read-only version. So they just got us read-only, which we've been asking for. But we want to get a locked-down version so I can bring in all of our patrons and have you all actually be in the code and able to look around in Visual Studio live during the stream. So that is actually the plan. So as soon as they can get me a version of that that will work nicely, we'll actually be able to get you guys integrated. So it should be really awesome because I'd like to just be like, yeah, no, anybody that wants to come in and see the code can just join in and take a look. Other things. If you are mad jealous of my derpy coding mug, you can get them at the merch store, and then there's also at the Redbubble one, we have stickers and things like that as well. So shirts, stickers, other fun stuff like that. I don't know why they showed a red one, that's weird. But there are various things like that for anyone that is interested. So anyway, I have to wrap the stream for the day, as you guys probably guessed by my sort of ending-ish things here, but as I said, if you want to keep chatting with me and the other people here in the chat, the best way to do that is to take a look at the Discord, because there really are a lot of us that chat in there, and other than that, I want to roll some credits here to make sure that I thank people for stuff. I want to thank Pimplack for those 2 bits, SNB for helping out with the moderation, and then a whole bunch of people for following. Thank you all for following. I'm glad you enjoyed the stream, SNB, Ancient Coder, and Will. You guys are all awesome, and I love all the participation in chat, so hopefully everybody enjoyed learning about the Liskov Substitution Principle, all these names. So thank you everybody in there that followed today. And Deadly Onion and Rising Phoenix with the subscriptions. It was awesome. Yeah, yes, the subscriptions are at the end there. So awesome stuff. I really appreciated everybody. And Rising Phoenix, make sure you enjoy that egg and take care of it. And if you're lucky, in a few months, that egg is going to hatch into a little dinosaur. Hey, sorry, Zajackal, don't worry. We will be back on Monday. So yes, you're absolutely correct. I will see all of you on Monday. And if you don't know when our stream takes place, you can type in schedule and a place, exclamation point schedule and a place, and the bot will actually tell you what our schedule is here on the channel. And if you don't check there, you can actually check down below, and there is a little widget down there. Widget panel, whatever you want to call it. So if you scroll down below the stream, you will see this now live thing here, and it shows in your time zone. So this is my time zone when our streams take place, but you can check there and it will show you that as well. So I had an awesome day today. We did a lot of fun coding, and I am looking forward to finishing this up, although I'm not going to have time right now because I got to take off because I've got some stuff I still have to do today. But it was awesome. Have a great day, everybody, and Groundhog Day is awesome, by the way, Will Bennett. And happy coding, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. We will see you all on Monday for our 100th stream. 100 streams, hype! 100 streams! Alright, bye, everybody.